Niger Delta Development Commission was set up by former President Olusegun Obasanjo to deliver the benefits of democracy and a civilian government to people at the grassroots, in a region which has for more than 50 years provided the very lifeblood of Nigeria's economy. But a chain of events, all of these events bordering on lack of accountability and financial probity, currently threaten to derail that core mandate. For months on end, individuals who have had one thing or the other to do with finances allocated from the smooth operation of the agency have indulged without let in all manners of mudslinging in the wake of a presidential directive for a comprehensive internal forensic audit. Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, former governor of Akpabio State, and a senator of the Federal Republic, former Senator Godswill Akpabio, was over the weekend a guest on Newsnight on Arise News. And he seized that opportunity to make very strong allegations against Joi Nunieh, a former acting managing director, Interim Management Committee of the Niger Delta Development Commission. Let's take a look at that interview by the minister and then return for Joi Nunieh's right of reply. Let's take.
Governors of the 9 Niger Delta states are doing their best. The NDDC is supposed to complement the efforts of the governors. But unfortunately, sometimes they duplicate what the governors are doing in order to siphon money. And so what I will say leadership. If we had the right leadership in the NDDC, things would have moved. And then, of course, the will of the federal government to ensure proper supervision. Now, if you see the rumble that is going on now, publication, blackmail, character assassination, you should ask me, is NDDC just existing today? No, it has been there for 19 years, 20 years. So why now? Why now? Suddenly you have a probe in the National Assembly, you have a probe in the Senate, you have people writing petitions, you have publications, you have people making, all sorts of allegations against the supervising minister. Why now? Why has NDDC suddenly come into the news for a bad reason in under 6 months? Everywhere is shaking earthquake. Well, you know why?
That's a question I'd like to ask you.
That is the answer I want to give to you. The answer is forensic audit. This is the first president since year 2000 that has ordered for a forensic audit of the NDDC to know what has gone wrong with the agency. Because you cannot have so much trillions going in there and nothing is seen on the ground. So as soon as the forensic audit was ordered, the world went balam. So it's almost like people who have eaten fat from the blood of Niger Deltans. A lot of people lost their lives for the NDDC to be established. I call it blood money. There are small places, like a place in Bayelsa. There's a village called Elegbele.
Yeah.
Their bridge collapsed. Over 3 years now, they have to use canoe to get drinking waters in pails for 7 communities. 2 billion naira alone can do that bridge. But what happened? Because of corruption. Because it remained a cesspool of corruption. It remained a place for people to use in settling political pundits and political cronies. In 19 years, nothing could be seen on the ground. NDDC in 19 years could not even buy a house and call it a permanent office, paying 300 million naira a year for the rent, as rent in where they are staying now in Port Harcourt. There was a building started under Umpadek by Chief Ege Horsfall in 1996. They could not complete it. So when I was appointed Minister of Niger Delta, I prayed to God. I said, God, give me the ability to take the bats, the insults, and all the blackmail that will come my way. But at the same time, give me the wisdom to turn around the Niger Delta region.
So you envisaged that you were going to have this kind of
look, let me tell you, even a seed, if you plant a seed, that seed must die first before it germinates. The NDDC must go through this process before it sprouts. And you must give kudos to the president for being the first president not to send all sorts of political cronies to NDDC to be settled. It was used as a place for election matters. If you want to contest election, all they need to do is to push you into NDDC. You make the money there, and you go out to contest. But unfortunately, so many that made the money never won the elections.
That was Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, Godswill Akpabio, on Newsnight on Arise News, speaking with our own Ngozi Alego. Now, for a right of reply to issues the minister raised in that clip, we are now being joined from Port Harcourt, Rivers State, by Joi Nunieh, a former acting managing director, Interim Management Committee, Niger Delta Development Commission. Good morning, Joi Nunieh, and welcome to the program. Good morning.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. Good to have you on the morning show. How are you? Yes. Well, very quick. The minister, I'm sure you listened to him. I'm sure you've also had the privilege of taking a look at the full tape of his conversation with Arise News anchor Ngozi Alaegbo. Now, you were accused of, one, insubordination, and also, secondly, of not having an NYSC certificate or any evidence that you served, in the NYSC scheme. Would you like to respond to these two allegations that have been at the center of your issue with Senator Godswill Akpabio?
Well, thank you very much. I would really like to appreciate Arise News, because Arise was the only station that agreed to air my press conference after we left the premises of the National Assembly. I give you all kudos, and I want to say before the world that Arise is now my best television station. And I pray that others who now want to follow suit learn quickly that it's beyond money. It's about news, and news that is worthy. I have come today to speak. I've not spoken since I left the NDDC over 5 to 6 months ago, because I didn't think it was necessary. I didn't go to Abuja since I was removed until I had to go before the Senate committee. So for me, it's not like I'm so angry I go on rampage. The only reason why I went out there to the Senate is that there was a statement by the minister and, of course, members of the Interim Management Committee that I had spent over 22 billion. I thought it was important that I go there to make my case and to state to all Nigerians and Mr. President that I did not spend 22 billion naira. I only spent 8 billion naira. I'm very happy that members of the National Assembly do have copies of all the money spent by the NDDC from the central bank and from the Accountant General's office. So I'm happy I have this opportunity and a right of reply. I am not like Akpabio that would come on television, not answer my questions. I volunteered, you'd agree with me, Mr. Abati, to be on this program today. I was called by other stations and I didn't agree to go. I came to tell Nigerians that I have a right of reply, and I came to protect my heritage and the dignity of my background. I came because there were question marks to my certificates. Now, 5 issues were raised by Akpabio. The first thing that he said was that I have been married to 4 husbands. Unlike Akpabio, I have already asked my lawyers to sue him, a senior advocate. He'll be hearing from us sometime today. I expect that Akpabio should also follow suit and sue me for the comments that I had made during my press conference. They were issues based on his integrity. I expected that in Africa, we say a good name is better than gold and silver. But he chose to come to that interview not to explain the allegations that I had personally made against him, but the world saw that as my supervising minister, the only relationship that we should have had would have been a relationship of work to supervise me, the relationship of a supervisory minister and the CEO of the NDDC. But he chose to come to tell the world that his main interest has always been my love life. And the issue is, did he want to be my 5th husband? If no, why is my love life very important to him? Secondly, why is it that 6 months after, he is still interested in my love life? Why is he interested? I have challenged Akpabio to give, he will come and tell the court so that it is well documented. He will give us a list of my 4 husbands. I know that I've not married 4 husbands, so the onus is on Akpabio to come. I'm not going to give the name of my husband so that he doesn't use it in his testimony. He should come and give a lip. The law is that he who alleges must prove. That's for the husband. The second thing that Akpabio alleged was that I do not have an NYSC certificate. He came with some documents showing the world that it was handwritten. I am here to tell the world that I wrote that application. That letter that Akpabio showed you was my letter. It was handwritten. There's no law that says you cannot write. And for a minister to say, can you imagine? It was written by hand. Handwritten letters are more authentic than the typewritten letters. The typewritten letter can only be authenticated by my signature. The laws of this land recognizes handwritten letters. I wrote that application to the Nigerian law school. I was requesting for 3 things from the Nigerian law school. The question Akpabio should be asked, when she wrote that letter, did the law school reply? Did they give her what she requested? Yes. Is the law school NYSC? The law school is not NYSC. So coming with a letter to law school is just very silly. I wrote to the law school requesting for 3 things. 1, I requested for a certified true copy of my call to bar certificate, my enrollment. The second one was my enrollment certificate. And the third thing I asked for was a list of those people who were in my set that went for NYSC, that law school sent. They have a list of all those. Did the law school give it to me? Were they certified? Yes, they were certified. Now, the issue is, you can see Akpabio didn't have any issues with, he said, look at the date. She graduated 3 months, over 30 years ago. It is now, she's now applying. My grandchildren can decide that they want to go to the law school to get a copy of my call to bar certificate. Why did I go to ask for my certificates? My late sister, Lady Ebenezer, died. She was the custodian of all our family certificates. I have photocopies of all my documents, and I went and I said, hey, my sister died. I have photocopies, but he must understand the difference between certified true copy and ordinary copies. I have a right, even if it's 10,000 years later, to request. So his argument is silly. Now, where did he come up with the issue of Kwara? Am I from Kwara State? How come Kwara was important? How come that somebody mobilized to Kwara? What is that story? What was going on in Kwara? So was there youth service in Kwara? That's the question that he should have been telling to. Now, the lady asked him a beautiful question. Why didn't you tell Mr. President that she had issues with NYSC? What was his reply? His reply was that, no, it would have broken his heart. What? How would that break the president's heart? If you could spend your money, your time as minister to write to my primary school, you wrote to my secondary school, Federal Government College, Warri. You wrote to where I did my A-levels in Zaria. You wrote to my university, River State University of Science, and you wrote to law school. And then at the end, when you now have evidence to kill Joi Nunieh, you find that you don't have any evidence, you don't have anything to give to Mr. President. You have no case against her. And then you now suddenly are very nice to me. You just didn't want to break the president's heart. So I think that issue of NYSC, he didn't make any case on that. The onus is on him to bring my forged NYSC certificate. I thank the 2 governors who have advised me not to release any of my documents so that they are not doctored. The onus is on Akpabio to bring those documents. I have said my own. Now, the other thing that Akpabio talked about, and I want to tell Nigerians that for the first time, I, like all other Nigerians, heard the reason why I was removed as NDDC MD. I never knew the reason. I never knew. You see, God brought Akpabio to come to respond on that day. And the Bible tells me that the heart of the king is like a stream of water. He turneth it whithersoever way he pleases. I think Akpabio, because he came to make a case, he came himself, answered all the questions on my NYSC. He was asked, is there any case of misappropriation, corruption? He said no. This is the man that has written all the petitions against me to ICPC. They all came out zero. So he didn't have anything against me. He didn't have anything to give Mr. President. He now says that the MD of NDDC was removed because he sent her 7 letters and she did not respond, that it was insubordination. I nearly collapsed that night. Insubordination. As a minister, a former governor, a senator, he should know that rules apply. The public service rules are what I would have been bound by as MD of the NDDC. And that requires that at least I get a query about insubordination. I want to tell all Nigerians and even Mr. President, I did not receive one query from Mr. Akpabio to explain myself. I have a constitutional right of fair hearing. And I think I know the reason why Akpabio would never have given me that query. He knew that if he wrote me to give me the query, I would have responded. Why didn't he use a more substantial case of NYSC certificates to remove me? Why? That would have been a more genuine case if he truly believed that that was a case against me. He should have used the NYSC, but he could not substantiate his case. All he had was a letter that I wrote longhand. So he couldn't use anything about NYSC against me. So he chose to use one about the letters. The law is that he must have written me, but he didn't write me because he couldn't prove insubordination to me. Why? Because the letters, Akpabio wrote me more than 20 letters, 30 letters. He wrote me letters for appeal for your intervention towards amicable settlement judgment. He wanted for us to pay for legal fees. NDDC here is not to pay legal fees to help people. He doesn't just understand that NDDC's money is not to be used to assist people. This is it. The one that he wrote me is a request for assistance. I wish to forward, this is it, a letter from Akpabio. Am I supposed to respond to letter for me to get assistance to people? NDDC's money for the people of the Niger Delta is not for assistance. I kept wondering, why is now this letter is written by the Chief of Staff to the Honorable Minister. Can you imagine? The Chief of Staff to the Honorable Minister, request for assistance. NDDC money. How do I respond to this sort of letter now? Asking officially the Chief of Staff to the Minister. Request for assistance for us to pay for contracts. This one is written by the Director of Special Duties. This is the letter. This is the reason why Joi Nunieh was removed. Now, there's another one written again by that same director, reminder for long overdue payments. A letter, I've never seen where a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria will write. He could have phoned and not written. It's documented here for me to make payments to his cronies. Another one, different person, vendor assistance. He asked me to do that. Now, now I have this one for payment of water hyacinths. Look at it.
May I come in here can I interject at this point? I'd like to move away for a moment from the accusations and counter-accusations and mudslinging and actually address the issue of the NDDC and the general perception, I'm sure you will agree, that it has underperformed. How do we ensure service delivery for the people of the Niger Delta in the next 20 years so that that is not flushed down the tubes as the past 20 years has been? Because in all of this, what we must recall is that you were responding to the Senate committee that was set up to probe the IMC, what the Senate described as financial recklessness, and the allegation that 40 billion naira was spent in 3 months. And then the NDDC's counter-accusation implicating the chairman of that Senate committee, Senator Nwaboshi, that he got a 3.5 billion naira contract. All of this back and forth. What happens to the people of the Niger Delta?
Okay, well, I think it's very important that I answer this issue of insubordination, please. That was the reason why I was removed as MD. It cannot be irrelevant. They accused me and made a case and made a memo to Mr. President that I was removed because I did not respond. Now, when I told Mr. Akpabio that, sir, please let your directors not write me letters. It can implicate you. It's very embarrassing. And I saw that Mrs. Walton Jack, who was the permanent secretary, refused to write those letters. That was why the director and the chief of staff. Upon that, Akpabio now wrote me a letter based on my advice that he should never write these letters again. He now comes before the world and says, I was removed for not paying and doing all of this. He now wrote me this letter, restriction of signatories to correspondences to and fro from the ministry. He now said I should never again acknowledge letters from all these people again. This is the letter that he wrote. So now he forgot that he wrote me this letter and then he used it against me. The case of insubordination is that I told Akpabio that when Akpabio saw that he could not make me bring out the money, he now tried plan B. Plan B of insubordination. Why did he not tell the president what happened that I slapped him? Why did he not tell Nigerians that I slapped his face in his guest house at Apo, in his office? Why did he not tell Nigerians what insubordination was about? Why did I stop going to meet him? He told the Senate committee that I refused to come to meet him to have meetings. Why didn't we hold our meetings at the office? I told Mr. Akpabio that I will not go to any meeting outside his office or my office. The last time before, that week before I left, he came to Port Harcourt. I did not go to the Meridian Hotel to meet with him.
Can I ask you, can we go back to the reference you just made to slapping the minister? You literally slapped his face.
Physical. I'm the only Ogoni woman, the only Nigerian woman that has slapped his face.
Why did you slap him? Why did you slap him?
I slapped him because of his plan B. He thought that he could, since he couldn't get me to take that money, he thought that plan B, if it could come up on me. He didn't know that I'm a Port Harcourt girl. Port Harcourt girls are not moved by money, by somebody telling me that you make me a substantive MD. The Port Harcourt girls are
Can we clarify this? Because this is, we can't gloss over a slap. What is the plan B? He came up on you. What exactly does that mean?
We were having a meeting. Akpabio's meeting with me is either in Apple or at Meridian or whatever. Those are his meetings. I slapped him.
Well, Joy, are you accusing Senator Akpabio of attempted rape? Is that the point you are making? Or sexual harassment?
Harassment sounds better, not rape.
Okay, so you are accusing him expressly of sexual harassment?
Yes, I am accusing him.
Okay.
And I want to say that, you know, most Nigerian women face a lot of these pressures. And that's why you can see Akpabio is more interested in my love life. That's why he said he was not going to glorify me. He was not going to talk about our work relationship. Why was he jealous that I was married for 20 times? Did he want to be my seventh husband? Even if I married 80 times, I did not marry 4 times. I don't know where he got that. Why was that for a woman that accused you of misappropriation in this country? Now he knows and I'm sure Akpabio respects me more than everybody in this country, knows that if after money, I would have taken the oath, I would have gone out of my way. Nobody would have heard all this noise about four husbands. That is why Akpabio told the world that I'm temperamental. He said it. But what he failed to say, he said, ask her 7 husbands. That is why he told the world that she's temperamental. You know why Akpabio will tell the world that I'm temperamental? Because of that incident. He is right to say I'm temperamental because anyone can do that. That was 1. 2, Akpabio's girlfriend supplies the diesel at NDDC. I looked at that diesel situation. I said, why don't we give the young Niger Delta boys, divide it into the 9 states for them to give? NDDC, and this is most important, NDDC in the past had paid for us to get light directly from AFAM, connected straight to the NDDC headquarter building. That was disconnected at the gates of NDDC. Millions were paid to get that light source to NDDC. It now stopped at the gate. To connect it from the gate, it was sabotaged not to go inside the building. I mean, look at the fraud in this country. So when I came, they said all this money on diesel, how do we cut it down? I am not here to spend money. I am here to cut down. How do I tell Mr. President that I came to do a forensic audit and I come in here to commit the same offense? I will not do it. I went down, we looked at the system. I said, how much would it cost for us instead of spending money? Just to cut a long story short, I said, let us go. I approved, we got the engineers. I said, let us approve for them to repair that thing and bring it. Now, because I was not the one, I have a view only of the remitter platform. I'm not the one to pay. The EDFA is the one that presses for the payments. Do you know that they refuse to pay the money for us to connect that light into the office so that we can keep buying that diesel? We can keep buying that diesel. And first, the EDFA is not supposed to press. I refused. I'm the chief accounting officer. But because the accountant general of the Federation, the National Assembly committees, the House and the Senate, wrote that me, the EDFA and the EDP, none of us are allowed, like all other agencies of government, to play any role on the remitter platform. I wrote to them not to press that thing. I am not part of it. I have documents I've submitted to the National Assembly saying that you are not allowed to. I attached the Accountant General's letter. Akpabio insisted that the EDFA must be the one to press so that they will be phoning him. You can hear Cairo yesterday said that we made payments without Akpabio's approval. Akpabio doesn't need to approve any payments made by NDDC. He does not have any role for the day-to-day running of the NDDC. You can see that Akpabio stopped going to his ministry. He's now the minister of NDDC because the budget of the ministry is 20 billion. The budget of that ministry is 20 billion. He has no interest. Yesterday, the day before yesterday, he never said anything about his ministry. He only has something to show about when he was governor. He has not told anybody in Nigeria that the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs is doing very well. He doesn't discuss the ministry. What he's discussing is this. And you can see, even when what you showed now, he was trying to tell us that people should not use the NDDC for their political this thing, that he came to rescue us. But he wanted me to bring money for his presidential ambition. He got upset that I saw Mrs. Amechi and Mrs. Silva at the airport, and I spoke to them because they are his political enemies. I want to stop his presidential ambition. So those are the things. Now, that same lady had the audacity to go to the National Assembly to put projects, went to the clerk of the committee. I don't say things that I cannot back up. She went to the clerk of the committee of the National Assembly. She's not a staff of NDDC. And asked the clerk that the minister had authorized her to put projects into our budget after I submitted the budget, after I laid the budget. She didn't come to me. Akpabio did not come to me. They went, she herself had the audacity, like every other pop. Can you imagine somebody?
What lady is this, ma'am?
The same lady that supplies the business. She now went, I don't want to call her name on. She now went to the clerk of the National Assembly and asked for that. So, Madam Inti, there's this lady here that wants to put in things into your budget. I said, who is the lady? Please give me her number. I called her. I said, Madam, my name is Joi Nunieh, the MD NDDC. Oh, Madam, how are you? I said, fine. I hear you're there to put some things into the budget. If you don't leave that place, I will get the police to arrest you. She said, no, but the minister sent me to put it. I said, the minister can't. The minister should have called me. I can now say, let me put, and I can. I've submitted it. I can't even go to the National Assembly to say I'm putting anything in. Within 2 to 3 minutes, Akpabio called me, screaming and shouting that, why did I talk to the lady like that? The president gave him all the powers of control. I said, the president cannot give you the powers that he doesn't have. The president only gave you the powers that he has in the act. He did not give you the powers. Yes, he can only delegate the powers that he has in the act. And the president, and I want to say this, in his wisdom, all the sections of the NDDC Act that Akpabio requested in his memo for Mr. President to delegate to him, Mr. President rejected all except one, which was he delegated his powers for general supervision over policy. The president never gave him any powers for the day-to-day running. You heard him very proudly saying, those directors, I could have just removed them. Akpabio didn't understand that he didn't have the powers to remove directors that are over level 14. He doesn't have such powers. Even I, as MD, I didn't have. Those are the powers for the board.
Well, Joy, let me interrupt you at this point. There is another issue that I would like you to address, which I saw on the internet, which is the point about you being asked to take a fetish oath by Senator Akpabio. Now, why didn't you complain then, being a lawyer, knowing that that's illegal under the criminal code? Why are you bringing it up now? And what exactly do you want? Do you want Akpabio removed as minister? Do you want to be reinstated as acting managing director of the NDDC?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. It was very difficult for me to tell anyone when during the first 3 times that Akpabio relationship had gotten really bad. I mean, Akpabio would come, I want $1 million. How do I bring $1 million? Akpabio would come during Christmas. We have to get $1 billion for everybody in the States. I said, sir, how do I write it? I don't know how to write that. Everyone in the Niger Delta will bear me witness. We didn't take 1 kobo to give to any youth during Christmas. And you can see what has happened now. You see palliatives flying up and down. Secondly, this relationship got so bad that he said the only way he could trust me again. When I said, sir, why are we having all this problem? He said, it's juju. It's juju. It's juju that is, have you changed? I told you to change the furniture in the office. I said, sir, I can't change the furniture in the office. I'm only here for 6 months. Beautiful furniture. Why would I? He made the new MD. That was the first thing, because of juju. I don't believe in juju. So when he told me that, it was difficult for me to go and start telling people that Akpabio told me, I'm a lawyer, there must be confidentiality. Why am I going to tell people that Akpabio told me to take an oath? I knew that I wasn't going to take any oath. When we went for that reconciliation meeting in Abuja, I did not tell the people of Akpabio himself raised the issue that, gentlemen, all I have said is that she must take this oath. I thank God for Mr. Saraki Aba, and that's why I have the boldness to call their names. If it were other people, they would have held press conference that there was nothing like that happened. But you can see that he's afraid to discuss this issue because the people who were present were people that are very credible and respected in this nation. Mr. Saraki Aba got up and said, listen, Minister, Joi is my sister. We've been in this politics for years. She's a member of our political family. Minister, she will not take that oath. I salute Saraki Aba. I thank him for that. Now, about this oath, I told him I wasn't going to take it. There were 5 issues that were raised at that meeting. I raised the issue of the missing files. I reported to them that Akpabio had sent his 2 EDs to collect files at my back. And he collected files of companies that he had interest in, his contracts when he was governor, for his contracts when he was senator, and that the week that he was made minister, Akpabio ensured that he got 30 contracts for water hyacinth and distilling. And he wanted those things to be done. I said, I need those files. He admitted before this gentleman that, yes, he told them to bring the files and that those files are verily preserved in a safe in Abuja. I now told him that stealing government documents under the Nigerian Criminal Code Act is a criminal offense and he could be liable for that. But I will write about that. This is the letter that I wrote to the directors to bring back those files immediately. This is it. The second issue that I raised at that place was the issue of the forensic audit. I told them that the forensic audit, the president brought the IMC so that we could superintend over the forensic audit. And the issue that he raised against me was that on national television, I said that the NFI, the EFCC, the DSS, and the World Bank consultants must be part of that. I believe that the president's legacy for anti-corruption, and I know Mr. President, I have worked with him. I know that he's interested and he loves the people of the Niger Delta. So I went there to make sure that the president is impressed. I told him that this is the letter that the president wrote to the Senate for the establishment of the IMC. Just one line. He says, I had directed that the forensic audit of the commission be carried out, which is being overseen by the constituted interim management team. This is the president's letter. This is his signature to the Nigerian Senate. Akpabio insists that no, it's not the interim management, that he will. I should send the money for the audit to him. I said it's like the Ministry of Health implementing a federal medical center. I said it is criminal. I will not do it. Those were the things some of the things that were brought there. Now, this issue of oaths, Mr. Dr. Abati, you are correct. Under the Nigeria Criminal Code Act, giving of oaths is a criminal offense. Akpabio is lucky that I did not take that oath. If I had taken that oath, he would have gone in for life imprisonment. Even if I had taken it, it would have been 14 years, I think, 7 to 14 years. I would have been liable, except I go to swear an affidavit that I took it under duress. Now that I did not take that oath, the Nigerian Criminal Code Act says he is still liable for giving me or telling me to take that oath so that I can subvert justice. You can see that what you didn't mention is one of the ladies, Arise, you people showed the lady, one of the members of the IMC, the part-time member. She said she made a fantastic case for me, and that's why I've told people, people shouldn't talk about her. She admitted that she took an oath of allegiance. I alleged that Akpabio wanted me to take an oath of allegiance, and not be allegiance to the federal government of Nigeria, because in the Nigerian constitution, there are only 4 categories of oaths of allegiance for the president, vice president, governors, deputy governors, National Assembly member.
Dr. Joi Nunieh, if you can hear me, we'll go to a quick break now. We'll come back to you very soon. We'll just go to a quick break. Thank you so much for your time.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. With us is Joi Nunieh, former acting chairperson of the Niger Delta Development Commission. But just before we go back to her in Port Harcourt, we have this breaking news. South Africa's ambassador to Denmark, Zinzi Mandela, has died. A close family member has confirmed. The mother of 4 is the daughter of the late former statesman, Nelson Mandela, and the late Winnie Madikizela Mandela. UDM leader Bantu Holomisa on Monday described Zinzi as a fighter who fought since the early days of her life, adding that she was particularly very close to her mother. He said, and we quote, "We will also remember her during the time when she was campaigning for Nelson Mandela to be released." So rest in peace. Sadness for South Africa. Now we'll go back to Port Harcourt and join Joi Nunieh, former acting managing director, Interim Management Committee of the Niger Delta Development Commission. Rufai, you had a question for her.
Yes. These are very shocking allegations, I should say, at this point, because I'm sure Mr. Akpabio will have a right of rebuttal if he wants to come after all of this you have said. But I want to quickly talk about 2 things. Number 1 will be, I don't know if you watched television yesterday, the revelations of how the funds are now being mismanaged at the NDDC. There was a young man that came on TV that was giving time and specific dates and amounts of money being transferred and how much that was spent on COVID-19 relief, well into the billions, and all the money is being spent. How do you feel based on the work you have put in at all of that happening? And secondly, you talked about the fact that he came on you, but what was still the plan B? Was the plan B to win you over to his side by bribing you? Because I'm not sure the plan B was sexual harassment, or was that the plan B? And thirdly, I want to ask, why did you raise an alarm when you saw a great level of nepotism in the system? Take, for instance, like you claimed, his girlfriend was supplying diesel to the NDDC, which is a clear case of nepotism. Can you respond to that, Ma?
Yes, yes, I watched the television yesterday, and I saw Cairo. I took my time yesterday. I knew you'd raise this, and I want to tell the lady who asked me the question about the National Assembly and all of that. Yesterday, I wasn't surprised about all that allegation that was made. I know the man was right. I saw it. For Cairo, he's not interested. You can see that he said his signature was not on the payment vouchers. He doesn't even know that the EDP signature is not required on the vouchers. There are processes from audit to the DFS, the EDFA. It goes back, they come back to me, I approve, who presses it? I don't have. I have the letter here, I only have viewing rights. Now, let me show you what Cairo does. All he's interested, he wants to, you can see that yesterday he said, they collected, the young man said, can you imagine that in May, they collected money to go for graduation ceremony? Everywhere is shut down in the world. Nobody is traveling anywhere. We're not like the amnesty. The students in school abroad are not, they are not like in one school. When you get your admission into a school, NDDC will pay so you can get a school in Russia. Which of the students' graduation was he going to? That he would collect the money in May. When he realized that there's nowhere to go in May, he said that he would attend in September. Why do you collect the money in May? Is it usual practice that NDDC will go for people's graduation? How do you select the students' graduation that you are going to go for? Now, let me show you this. Cairo would ask for money. I will cut it down. Here he was asking for 2.800 whatever. I cut it down to 1 million. I told him to go and bring his staff that will go with him. I was very, very, very prudent. I refused to change dollars. And for her question about all these monies that were spent, the issue of the National Assembly people and the allegations that I'm going to the question that she asked me, merging it with your question. The issue which he raised yesterday, that the National Assembly people, that the letter alleged that Akpabio brought a draft memo from Abuja for me to write against the members of the National Assembly. This is the draft. This is the draft letter, the copy that he brought from Abuja. And it says it's just talking about the contract against the senator and all of them. I refuse to do that. Now, Cairo denied that that I brought the files, that he never wrote any document, that I had the files. Now, this is the final letter. Here, since Cairo, this is from here. So, acting managing director. Here. It says to the acting managing director from the acting executive director projects here. And the heading is preliminary findings on the abuse of executive powers and reckless award of contract without due process to members of the National Assembly in breach of the public. When I said I was going to write what I cannot do, he now wrote this. Then I said, remember I said, and this is the attachment of all the contracts he claimed was from them. I now did this cover letter as I had claimed. So I've submitted all of this to the National Assembly. But what was his issue with the National Assembly? And you can see he was asked the question that concerns me. Why the allegations made by the former MD? He now went on a tangent about the Deputy Senate President. What concerns the Deputy Senate President with this? The Deputy Senate President is a leading member of the APC, and he's like a leader of the South-South. He should be interested in what goes on at NDDC. So the DSP supporting this investigation hasn't done anything wrong. Nigerians are alarmed. Nigerians want to know what he's saying, that there's a forensic audit going on. I'll come to that. There is no, I challenge Akpabio, and I'm going to back it up with documents, that there is no forensic audit going on now, no forensic audit. He asked the former managing director to do what he told me to do and what he told this new MD to do, who unfortunately and sadly, I pity Professor Ponte, honestly. He looks to me like a gentleman, but he couldn't hold his ground. Now, he told me to change the dollar, and this is what he did to Mrs. Akpagaga. He told her to change all the dollars in the account to pay for the contract, these 30 contracts that he got, and for the water hyacinth and all. She got afraid and ran to the members of the National Assembly, Peter Mobushi, the senator and chairman of the NDDC, and Olubumi Ojo, and he now gave her cover. He now had a meeting with them. Since he's talking about the National Assembly, he offered both of them, and they are going to testify. They've already sent in their own memos. Peter Nwobushi has been there. He offered both of them, like they have said. They have said it. They have written their own memos, that Akpabio offered them 400 million naira each. That if they can tell this woman, they all had the meeting, that she should change $120 million. Yes, $120 million in the NDDC account. He will be able to take care of certain people in Nigeria and that. So he will give them 400. I mean, the way he talks about NDDC money, I'll give you 400 million, give you, he promised 2 of them. They said, okay, they will get back. Instead of doing that, he now wrote to the woman to help her cover her situation. They now wrote to Mrs. Akpagaga that she is not allowed to change $1 in the account. That is the story of their problem. That is the reason, and that is the reason Mrs. Akpagaga was removed. I say there's no forensic audit. Just to go very quickly. Now, I raised the issues of certificates of no objection, I'm sure the presidency is taking that very, very seriously. I said that Akpabio, part of the insubordination against him was that I did not go to the FEC meeting. Yes, I did not go to the FEC meeting because I did not want to contravene any provision of the Procurement Act.
Well,
we got
Joy, if I may interrupt you here. Well, yes. Yeah, I mean, you are not just shaking the table, you are breaking the table.
No, you smashed it.
There's no table again.
Doctor, please, this is the most important part of this interview and what Nigerians, because every time they come on television, they are talking about everybody in Nigeria being afraid because there's forensic audit. I am saying there is no forensic audit going on at NDDC. The only document that was presented, and in Akpabio's memo to Mr. President, he said that I refuse to carry out the verification exercise. All contractors and all Nigerians will bear me witness that there was a verification exercise in all the states. Secondly, the paper that they presented to the lead consultant was the document and the DSS reports from the verification exercise that I did. That is the last thing that happened about forensic. There was an application to BPP, and it's so embarrassing, asking for a due process certificate of no objection for the award of a contract for the procurement of the lead consultant. Now, the source of funding for that consult was from the 2020 budget. Now that I'm speaking to you today, the 2020 budget, right now, the NDDC has no budget. I presented the 2019 budget, which was passed and has lapsed. The 2020 budget has not even been discussed, has not even been passed. So the BPP gave a certificate of no objection for the procurement of the lead consultant who Akpabio brought and who he said could take control. Akpabio said why he wanted that person, and he didn't want NFIU, he didn't want the World Bank consultants to come in. That if they come in, he should be able, and he said this at the meeting, and he was rebuked by Mr. Sadki Abba.
Well, John, I'm sorry, I still need to interrupt you. Because as I said earlier on, your interview is generating a lot of interest. And we've been receiving a number of questions from viewers. And for purposes of clarification, there are a number of issues that you need to help us clarify. One, somebody sent a question asking, where did you do your national service? What year? Okay, you've made the point that your sister kept the documents and you swore to an affidavit and all of that, but they need clarification on that. Second, you said Akpabio had a plan B on you, which you explained as sexual harassment. Now, as somebody who is a role model for many young ladies, why did you not report the sexual harassment? And then three, on the question of the audit, why do you say that there is no audit going on? Is it that there is no independent agency that has been appointed to oversee that? And I asked you earlier, you sidestepped that. What exactly do you want? What do you expect?
I don't want to go back to NDDC at all. And what I expect is that things should be done properly. I was involved in the Niger Delta struggle. I want to ensure that we have the Niger Delta truly developed. Anything that will make the Niger Delta develop, I'm in for it. I don't want to go. I went to Kwara State, served there, and that is why Akpabio talked about Kwara. Thirdly, I did not report because it was unnecessary. I'm not a child. The only reason why I have raised this issue is that Akpabio has touched my dignity. When he touched my dignity and started talking about 4 husbands and all of that, I needed to stop him. I am not a child that a man talks to. Many women are chased every day. Nobody hears about it. I don't want that. I handled him. I handled this. It wasn't as though I was helpless. You run and talk about it when you are helpless. I was not helpless. I'd say there is no, and that's what I was trying to explain. The certificate of no objection, Doctor, is the most important part of a forensic audit. So I was coming to that. The certificate of no objection states where the funding for the procurement. You cannot have a forensic audit if you don't have the forensic auditors. The forensic audit, they asked that the procurement of a lead consultant. The lead consultant has not been officially procured. Why do I say that? The fact that there is an approval from FEC, which was wrong, it should never have happened. And it stated clearly on that certificate of no objection that the source of funding would be from the 2020 budget. That means that there is no source of funding. It is a criminal act under the Public Procurement Act that you will not approve any procurement. This is called anticipatory budgeting, when the National Assembly has not appropriated funds for it. So I am correct to say that there cannot be any procurement because, and I'm worried that Cairo said yesterday on national television that the lead consultant has already been paid. How did the lead consultant get paid when the budget has not been passed? That is one. Two, the second certificate of no objection for the procurement of project vehicles. Instead of stating under what budget, BPP gave a certificate of no objection saying the source of funding is from the IGR, revenue, internally generating revenue. NDDC is not an internally generating commission. Even if they sell their things, it must be based on a budget. Thirdly, the consultants, the forensic auditors, you can see before the Senate, Cairo said, no, forensic audit is different. We have international auditors that are already doing the forensic audit. The 9 forensic auditors that they've applied for, they've not been procured. Those 9 companies are not international. Those 9 companies, the president would need to check them out. None of them have carried out a forensic audit before. So what should happen is that quickly, they have lied to Nigerians. The president must investigate this. Is there a forensic audit going on? Where are they carrying out that forensic audit? They need to show us where. Where is the funding from? And I stand here again that the due process certificates that have been given, no approval has been made for the forensic audit. Therefore,
okay, I'm going to come in here now. We shouldn't wait until December, as the Senator Akpabio said, to wait for this report of this forensic audit, which you're claiming is a phantom audit. But I'm going to take you back to my question that I asked you. You have had this jaw-dropping account of the whole gamut of sleaze, frankly. Sexual harassment, corruption, swearing fealty or allegiance to an individual and not to the Constitution. The whole thing is a microcosm of Nigeria. I go back to what I asked you, the people now. What do we do for the people of Niger Delta to make the next 20 years different from what has happened in the past? Do you think that the minister should be overseeing the NDDC, for example? Do you agree with those who said the IMC in itself was a mistake and an independent body like a KPMG or what have you should have been appointed? What are actionable points going forward now?
Well, I don't think that KPMG and others should be appointed to oversee the NGO. I think that the president should appoint the board that has been screened and cleared. They should come as he intended to oversee that. And if Akpabio is there, they should send it back to the SGF's office. Secondly, I really pray that the president will appoint people who are committed and who do not have political ambition. Because when you have ministers that are planning to contest, their mind is how to raise enough money for elections, really. So I think that in the interest of the Niger Delta people, for instance, I stopped medical assistance for people going overseas to do medical assistance. They'll collect money from state governments to travel. When they come back, NDDC will give them money. I think that we should help to use these monies instead of frivolously giving out, helping people. Can you imagine, make another allegation? Akpabio wrote me to put some projects for the Refugee Commission in the budget of NDDC. Refugee Commission is another federal government commission for IDPs. How do you tell me to put some of their projects in the NDDC project and budget when we have so many things to do in the Niger Delta? How do you explain that? So they must understand that this is not national cake. You take this, you take that. We need people who have participated in the Niger Delta struggle, who love the Niger Delta. They need to get the right people. I'm hoping that the new board would be able to oversee this. And I'm happy that since the forensic audit hasn't started, I think it's not too late. The money that they have paid to the lead consultant is misappropriation. He should immediately return the money. He should return the money. And from now...
Just before we go, I mean, another question from one of our viewers. And the question says, why don't you want an independent audit, like from a body like the KPMG?
Yeah. I think that for a forensic audit, the way that we had looked at this forensic audit would be to have different auditing firms instead of one auditing firm. So that was why, because there are 9 states to be audited, they're different. We had legal auditing, we had to look at the personnel auditing. So it's not just the money. So we needed reputable firms to be involved in it. Now, why did we want the World Bank consultants to be involved in this process? I particularly wanted the World Bank to be involved because I want to thank President Obasanjo for being the one who pioneered this act, the Procurement Act. Before then, there was no statute or any form of procurement. And the World Bank report was that out of every 100 kobo that had been lost by the federal government to corruption, 60 kobo of that 100 kobo was from the 60 kobo of that 100 kobo was from the procurement. And so I would also like Mr. President to now insist or establish the National Procurement Council. It's written in the Procurement Act. Any other approval on procurement is an illegality.
Okay. John, we need to close the interview now. But before we go, another question from our viewers. Someone is saying that you have not answered the question about NYSC. Yes or no? Did you serve?
State.
Okay.
I said Kwara, yes.
Okay, you served in Kwara State. So that viewer is asking that question. She has settled the matter. Thank you very much indeed for your time. I'm sure many Nigerians will comment further on what has now become the Akpabio Nunieh theater, as it were.